Let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
I remember one person said something like Biden, like to me, where it was like Biden won the presidency, but like Cain and the progressives won the transition. It wasn't just the direction that they set in policy, it was a lot of the personnel.
Toxic, radioactive pick, a description for anyone associated with the Biden administration as questions mount about who was really in charge of the White House for 4 years because we're all saddled with the effects. Hearings and subpoenas are about to commence.
Number 2.
So what Harvard has been doing is pro-terrorism, anti-American, and we shouldn't be using U.S. taxpayer dollars to be funding this type of anti-American activity.
That is the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, Tricia McLaughlin. Harvard gets short-term legal lifesaver as the spotlight on their campus. The admissions, foreign students, anti-Semitism gets brighter and soon to be blinding in my view. We're going to look at Trump first, Harvard.
Number 1.
He's bypassed the tariff laws to order tariffs, to pause them, to increase them, to waive them. Under the Constitution, which gives tariff authority to Congress, the president doesn't have that authority.
That is Andrew Morris from The Bottom Line last night. Here we go. The courts get in the way again of the Trump agenda, this time blocking tariffs. Let's hope these new trade deals start coming out a quicker pace as we look at get the country and Elon Musk and more back on track and the economy ready to go. So what am I referring to? So a group went up to this trade court that's rarely used, I understand. I'm not Mr. I'm not the guy really in charge of all legal aspects of the show. But the way I understand it, when it comes to the tariffs, the thing that was so hard for the president to understand is one of the judges on the International Trade Court he assigned them. And he's a little mad because he says one of them was recommended by the Federalist Society and he's not conservative. So he said, I was depending on these people. I don't really know the judges. And this judge ruled that the president does not have the power under the law they stated to have massive tariffs. So what does that do? You're trying to get leverage over a country to rebalance our trade with the EU, with China, with Vietnam, with Japan. Obviously, there's a bunch to be done. And then a court goes, oh, you can't even do that. Well, quickly, the U.S. Court of Appeals jumped in and they put a temporary stay in effect. Just one day after the court International Trade Commission said you can't do that. President put on Truth Social how upset he is at the Federalist Society. Meanwhile, Japan is at the White House right now, finishing touches, we believe, on a trade deal. EU says we're unaffected by what the courts are saying. We're moving swiftly to get a deal with the U.S. And China is hailing the court's ruling and validating Trump tariffs, and everyone will leave. I say, Jameson Greer, do this as quick as possible. Get the courts out of this. Get our new trade deals. I don't want these judges deciding whether the president has leverage to rebalance trade. Do you? Did anyone challenge him the first 4 years? Did you challenge Joe Biden when he left Trump's tariffs in place on China? Of course you didn't. And they said they got another plan. And their plan was to enact the same act they used last time. Evidently, it's called the Trade Act of 1974, which includes language allowing tariffs from up to 15 to 150%. So that's a big deal because you all of a sudden lose control. When you can't control your own country's tariff policy, why should a country go do a deal with you? And how do you possibly get leverage? It's really disturbing. Kevin Hassett weighed in, cut 6.
And so this is a big victory for the president. And I just got to say that you also can see, if you just look at the data, that President Trump's vision is working, that we've received $50 to $60 billion in tariff revenue since we've started the tariffs. Inflation has gone down. In fact, if you think about it, the automakers for foreign auto companies are running ads saying they're not going to increase prices. So it's working exactly the way we thought, and we're very pleased with the decision today.
So decision to stay, but it's all temporary. And that's what I just think lights a fire under everybody's butt to get moving. And I like to see this get done. We all do. The big question is, why are these courts playing such a role in policy? You know, it's hard enough having an opposition, and then you got people in your own party that don't agree with you. But now you got to deal with courts that are motivated to stop you. Mary Barras, the general manager, is the chair and CEO of General Motors, cut 7.
From an auto perspective, the 232 were always in place. We're looking at it carefully, but we knew there was going to be more change. And so, there's going to be a period where this all gets worked out. There's still more deals to do. So we're waiting for that. But there's certain moves that we're already making to strengthen our North America manufacturing because we can do that with the clarity we already have.
Yeah, so we'll see what's going to happen. The other big story, and I'll bring up more about the economy and Scott Bessent, what a great job he's doing last night. And word is things have broken down with China, gone into a stall, and the president's probably going to call President Xi within a week and get that going again. When it comes to education, what's happening with Harvard got a victory to a degree. The president said, I'm going to take back $2.5 billion worth of grants. They're suing to get the money back. A judge also blocked President Trump's effort to restrict foreign students at Harvard. Right now, it makes up 27% of the student body, 18% of which are from China. China, really? We're still doing this? Harvard's graduation ceremony was filled with digs at President Trump because he's the bad guy, even though this is an anti-Semitic rage campus with more Palestinian groups than I think sports groups and clubs. And by the way, Marco Rubio, I love that he did this. He put a statement out on social media saying, under President Trump's leadership, the U.S. State Department will work with the Department of Homeland Security to revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party, which I think is every of them. Because when you're born there, you go like, oh, I'm with the opposition party. That usually gets you put in jail. So now all the 275,000 Chinese students. Let me ask you, how many students we have studying in China? I hear those schools are pretty good. How many students? How about a few thousand? I mean, a few thousand, the whole school, the whole country. So the policy changes impacting students. The visa revocations targeting Chinese students could impact 280,000. The visa interviews being paused and social media vetting being expanded, part of the broader effort to reduce economic and educational ties. But we have to. They're our enemy. It was their decision, not ours. My problem with social media vetting is they don't have Facebook. They don't have X. They don't really have anything. They're on TikTok exchanging workout videos, not like us. So I don't know how you're going to discover things. I just think you have to limit the amount of Chinese students. There's no doubt about it. I don't want to train these people to fight against us. Number one, they have to give up any information that they get because their families are left behind. That's the only reason they're allowed to travel here. But of course, Alan Garber, the Harvard president, now suddenly last year he was booed for standing up against anti-Semitism. Get your head around that for a second. Cut 19.
Members of the class of 2025 from down the street, across the country, and around the world. Around the world, just as it should be. I see you this morning.
Right. I can't listen anymore. But Alan Garber got crowds to applaud by people who are very liberal, obviously graduates, and 30% of the crowd is international. So through translation, they know he's singing their song. So this is going to go through the courts. So right now you can freeze all. They decide to dig in and sue back, go ahead. Game on. The more scrutiny you get about your policies of admissions, about your breakdown of international students, about the anti-Semitism that's allowed to flourish, about the uncomfortability of people who are conservative, let's say, or among the faculty, how few go there. The more scrutiny, the more people are going to resent the hell out of Harvard education. Columbia said we're a mess. We'll take what do we need to unfreeze $400 million? Harvard says, how dare you? I'll sue you. I'm pretty sure it's not going to work out for them just by going through the process, let alone the thousands they're wasting on their legal fees. Maybe it's going to get to millions already. Let's bring in Link Lauren, former senior advisor for RFK Jr., big-time social media presence. Link, what's your reaction to the role that oversight should be playing in investigating what happened, or are you under the belief we should just be looking ahead?
I actually think we do need a referendum. I want a full investigation. I want Karine Jean-Pierre called in. I want all of Biden's advisors called in and put under oath, give them a polygraph. We should know as taxpayers who was controlling the auto pin. Who were these unelected bureaucrats that were making big decisions that affected us and impacted our lives in negative ways, right? Clearly, Joe Biden was not the one making these big decisions. The guy was asleep basically after 4 p.m. and before 10 a.m., according to reporting from Axios. So they should definitely call people in. I think we should call Jill Biden in, the First Lady, because she sat behind the desk on Air Force One. She was running cabinet meetings. She was basically the de facto president while Joe Biden was out to lunch mentally. So I do think Jill Biden, the First Lady, should be called in. Let's ask her some questions.
I know, but I just can't see it. I think it's a bad precedent to have a First Lady called in. And even though I do think everything you said is right, I do think she was making a ton of decisions. I also think it's so irresponsible. One of the most irresponsible things a spouse could ever do. Biden or not, Democrat or Republican or not. I mean, just letting him walk through the sand in front of all the cameras, knowing that he can't walk on flat ground, to embarrass him like that is something you wouldn't expect somebody to do. But when you look at what's happening with the Jake Tappers and the CNNs now going after this story, and Joe Scarborough now going after what really took place there, knowing that they were the biggest advocates and just kept their eyes closed and looked straight ahead this whole time. What's your reaction to that, Link?
Well, I have to chime in on something you just said about Jill Biden. I've gotten messages from women for months, from moms, from girlfriends, from wives, and they say, I don't know what kind of woman would let her husband go out there in that June 27th debate on CNN and make a fool of himself. So Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, if they really loved Joe, they wouldn't have pressured him to run again, but they're so power hungry and thirsty for fame and fortune, they couldn't do that. As for Jake Tapper, to tie it all in, I just read last night, Jake Tapper has his lowest ratings in a decade. He's doing less than 100,000 viewers in the key demographic, and it's because Jake Tapper is a liar, okay? He's a feckless coward who refused to cover Joe Biden's decline in any real way, and he slapped his name on this book that Alex Thompson was already working on, so nobody should trust Jake Tapper. It's like the Hunter Biden laptop. They said it's Russian disinformation, it's not real, it's fake. We're all looking at the pictures and the videos from the laptop, so Jake Tapper, he can give Laura Trump an apology, he can express contrition. No one will ever trust him again because he tried to tell us not to believe what we were seeing with our own eyes. They tried to gaslight us time and time again, and Americans are over it. They're changing the channel.
So let's talk about what Democrats are doing now, because the Civil War is fascinating to me. Jasmine Crockett, who seems just love the camera, she proclaims this is the fact behind the scenes that you and I, Link, don't see. Cut 35.
I can tell you in real life that I've had a number of Republicans that approach me as they see me out and they say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I really like you. Like, we come from completely different parties, but I believe that you are fighting for the people. I believe that you are trying to do what's best for all of us. I may disagree with like how you feel like we get there, but I agree with your fight. And I think that that's what's scary for them, is this idea that it's not just, say, Black folk that are listening to me, right? Or it's not just like the super liberal folk. It's this idea that, you know, people who even aren't Democrats would actually listen to what I have to say.
Lake, did we watch her and listen to her like we watched The View? Just to see something to laugh out loud, like a car wreck?
Well, anytime I see Jasmine Crockett, she's posting these ridiculous TikTok videos where she's dancing down the hall. This is what I say about all the Democrats. They don't want to work. They want to twerk. That's all they want to do. They want to post videos. They want to break into song on the House floor. Look at Al Green. He's waving his cane around, introducing articles of impeachment. The only Al Green I like is the Let's Stay Together R&B Al Green. But Jasmine Crockett, I think the reason Republicans are coming up to her and saying, we love you. You're amazing, Jasmine. Oh, we're gassing you up. They want Jasmine to run in 2028. They would love for Jasmine Crockett to run for president. So Jasmine is believing the hype, but no, she's incredibly uncouth. And people say you're judging Jasmine Crockett because she's a woman. She's a woman of color. No, we've lowered the bar so much for Jasmine Crockett. If a white man was behaving in that way, we'd all be talking about it too. This has nothing to do with race and gender.
But white men are the worst, and I can't say that enough. But it's interesting. You have people who knew Biden and didn't. They're divided. And then you have people that are way on the left, like Bernie Sanders, against oligarchs, and that's divided from the Rahm Emanuels. And then you have young and old. She's one of the people that wants to be the ranking member on the Oversight Committee, and they're looking to put this guy, Congressman Lynch, up there, who's 70 years old. and they want Schumer out, and other people want a younger person in. Link, do you know anything about this young old fight the Democrats are having?
Well, I don't really care so much about age. I care about cognitive capacity, right? If you're the best person for the job, then you should have the job. I don't think Jasmine Crockett should be in any position of power. I wouldn't trust Jasmine Crockett to lead an electric slide or a conga line. Okay, I wouldn't trust Jasmine Crockett to babysit my dog. So if she wants to be in charge of all these committees, then good luck to her. But I don't care so much about age. And my thing with Joe Biden is this, right? If he had perfect functioning, capacity, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. But he clearly had dementia, Alzheimer's, and was not doing well. President Trump is spry and quick and sharp, and he talks about that all the time. He has friends who are 100 years old who are quick and sharp. So I don't care so much about the numerical age. I care about if you're up to the job.
And you don't feel that she's up for the job. And let's just see, because that's something where you can really make a name for yourself, or you could blow yourself up. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Hey, Link, thanks so much. You can follow him at It's Link Lauren on all his social media. Link, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We hope makes you think. Dean Cain joins us now, actor, producer. You're watching him on the stream if you can, in Fox Nation. You also get us on YouTube, and I'm sure he's going to make the cut for the podcast. Dean is excited, not only because he sees me again, and that gets him excited. He can't help himself. He's also the writer and director of a brand new movie called Little Angels, and it involves, he's a soccer player, and it involves soccer. Now, did you write this knowing that I got to do this for Brian? Because knowing I've playing since I was 5?
I think you were Hofstra? Was it? Where'd you play?
My brother played at Hofstra.
I played
at Long Island University.
Why did I knew there was Hofstra in
there. No, that
there.
was good, though, because you think Long Island.
Exactly, 100%.
And you think Division I, and I was a Division II player.
You look like a Division I player to me.
Thank you.
That's what counts.
I'm pretty sure you.
I wrote this. I wrote this movie for you because I care about you.
Just before I hear a clip, could you set it up?
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about the premise.
It's real simple. It's like a college football coach, like a Nick Saban superstar coach, who says something stupid in the national championship game about female athletes, and he gets suspended for a year and has to do community service in order to save his huge salary. And the community service is coaching under 13-year-old girls soccer. He doesn't like kids, and he doesn't like soccer. And take it from there. It's kind of a Mighty Ducks feel to it.
Excellent. You wrote it. You produce it, you star in it. Do you put yourself through the casting process, and do you call other people for the role?
Oh yeah,
and pretend there's other contenders.
Yeah, you got. I tried to call you to come in, but
I would have beat you, Dean. I'm telling you, I wouldn't have to act. I wouldn't know how to. All right,
I can't cast myself.
Yes, here's a clip from Little Angels.
You guys speak English?
We're girls, not guys, and I speak English.
Well, good for you. And the rest of you girls, you speak English?
Who are you?
I'm Jake, and I guess I'm your new coach.
Yay! I guess we don't care.
What are you reading there?
The Bible.
Why?
Eternal salvation. Duh.
Anybody have a soccer ball? No soccer? Nothing? All right, here's the deal. I want you guys to all run over to that tree over there. Let's run over there and let me see what kind of athletes you are. Let's go. Run on over. Go. Don't go at once, but go run now. Go, 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 go. Chop, chop. Let's go.
You say chop chop because I'm Asian?
I don't have my whistle. Are you on the team?
That is awesome. So the girls are not enthused that you're there.
No, not at all. They don't even want to be playing soccer. They don't even care. They're the misfit group. They're the team to be named later. You know, you get those when you're on this team. You're brand new. We formed a new one, and so he has to take this group of misfits and turn them into a real team. And it's all about team. You know, I love sports. I know you love sports, and it's about that teamwork. You can't do it by yourself, and you learn humility because I don't care how fast you are. Even if you're Lionel Messi, you need your teammates, and how good you are. Somebody's faster, somebody's stronger. Mm-hmm. On this particular day, you get knocked down, and so I think that teaches so much in life. And the person who learns the most in this whole thing is myself, the coach. He learns the most from the girls because they're so tough and they become a really close knit unit, and it's a lot of fun. And I think people will leave the theater with a smile on their face.
So we'll give you the premise for it. Is one of the things just pops into your head?
Well, you know, you're always thinking about stories and things, and you can't help it. But I was at my goddaughter and my niece were playing soccer against each other, and they got to the championship game, and each one of them was in the goal, and it was in overtime. So
wow, how old are they?
They were at the time they were 11 when this happened, and it was penalty shootout, and they were the goalies. each
Wow.
one on opposite squads. So one of them was going to lose, and there was tears for the losing team. It was my goddaughter, but then I took him for ice cream, and then 15 minutes later it was over.
It was over.
Yeah,
Right.
but watching, there was 5,000 girls out there and families, and that there's not a lot of and everybody's like, but there's no movies. The last sort of soccer movie for families was Ladybugs back in Rodney Dangerfield time, and I was like, well, I got an idea, and so I put it together, and it was a real natural progression into what it became, and I'm super happy with the film. I mean, I made every cut, I wrote everything, I did everything. So if you don't like it, if people don't like it out there, blame me.
And where do we see it?
It's in theaters everywhere,
Oh,
starting
really?
June 6th. You got to go to littleangelsmovie.com, and then it shows you where the theaters are. And if they're not in your area, just hit the little demand that it be there, Brian.
So Dean, what is it like now doing a movie and thinking, do I make the movie and offer it? Do I make the movie for the theater? Do I make the movie for a streamer? Do I try to get the contract first? How do you do it?
It's that part of the business is a real business, and it's a pain in the tail, you know. So the biggest thing is finding the money first of all, and I got someone to invest the money. That was great. Then we had some deals, and some people didn't see eye to eye, and things didn't happen. So it took a little bit of time to actually get the distribution deal. Theaters, it's hard. It's a different business now. You know, Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible is out there. You know, Lilo and Stitch. These massive, Karate Kid. These huge, gigantic, very expensive movies. And here we have a smaller film that it's a family film. We hope it picks up steam, and then it'll go to the streaming.
Why was it better to go theater than stream? Is it just
you do both? To get a little bit of a theatrical release is always a good thing. You know, get some eyeballs on it, maybe get some word of mouth, because you could always catch fire. And that's what I'm hoping is that families go and see this and go, man, that was a good time, a good family movie. You can bring your whole family, and you know you're not going to get anything untoward. But it's got a couple Bugs Bunny-like jokes where the kids will hear one part of the joke, but the parents will hear the other part. And that's
I love
fun.
it. The other thing would be the World Cup's coming here. The club championships are this summer. So I think that the days when, if you don't play soccer, you're going to watch it. I go into these sports bars now, and they're not soccer players. I go, you just watch the Premier League, or you're watching for fun? Like, I'm not a football player, but I've watched thousands of games, right? That's accepted. But it was very rare 10 years ago to see a bunch of people that didn't play. And now I see a bunch of people that just like sports and just watching this.
Well, it's exciting as heck. I especially like World Cup because it's countries. Oh, yeah. And that's super fun. And in Little Angels, they're all girl players, right? So he's not a good soccer coach. So who does he bring in? Brandy Chastain. So she comes
you've got Brandy Chastain.
She comes in and gives like a seminar and teaches the coach, you know, how to get the kids together and how to do things and how to kick penalty
How was she?
kicks.
Can she act?
She can act. Man, I just go, she's a coach, so she's a soccer coach now, and obviously she knows more about the game than I'll ever know. And I just had her put a little seminar on for the kids, and she had speeches, she had stuff. I mean, how am I going to write for her how to coach soccer, you know? So she just did it all, and then she was a full natural when it came to acting, just piece of cake. She has some funny lines in the thing, but she has the greatest World Cup goal, I think, of all time for the United States when they beat China, and she scored that final goal, and then she ripped off her shirt, the cover of Sports Illustrated. She had the sports bra underneath, but that was a classic moment of
in front of 100,000.
Oh yeah, and that was a classic moment of female empowerment. People are like, I can't believe she did that. Look what every male soccer player's ever done forever, and I thought it was amazing. And she's in the movie, and she's great, and I loved it.
Quick process question. Because you always hear about Larry David says he doesn't really script stuff out. He gets comedians on there and they just know where they start and where it ends. With her, do you just say, I need a speech that means something like this? Or do you say, here's my monologue, memorize it? What do you do?
No, for her, because listen.
Because she's not an actor.
Yeah, she's not an actor, but also she knows more about the subject than I do.
All right.
So I said, and she has this foundation called the Bossy Girls, BAWSI, and she's a coach. And I said, just give a little motivational speech for these guys. Keep it short, get to the point, and so she came up with her words there. The only thing I had her do in a scene was, I don't want to give it away, but she has to sort of critique my teammate, and the girls are great and blah, blah, but then she has to give me some realistic expectations for my team, which aren't real. It's kind of Bad News Bears.
Right.
But she was so good, and I love her to death, and she was so great with the girls. It's unbelievable. You could see how good a coach she is and how knowledgeable.
All right, can I expand this a little?
Yes.
Ivy League, there's two things. I got Los Angeles, the shape it's in right now.
Ugh.
I know you left it, but it's still burned to the ground and almost nothing's been done, and people want to spin it differently. I know you still have friends there, but I want to talk about what's happened with the Ivy Leagues. You famously went to Princeton, and you started in football there, played in the Bills for a brief period of time. But I think you lead him all time in tackles, correct?
I lead him all time in interceptions.
Interceptions.
I was second on the team in tackles for 2 years in a row, but all time for interceptions in a single season and all time for interceptions career. And those are NCAA records. That's all.
Do they enjoy do you think they deserve the scrutiny they're getting from this administration? And could they have gotten the same scrutiny back then, or have they changed dramatically since you graduated in the 80s?
So, fortunately, Princeton's not getting all the heat. It's Harvard getting all the heat.
But do they deserve some heat?
Because Princeton deserves some heat in the past, and I think for their supportive,
the anti-Semitism.
That's exactly it. The anti-Semitism got me. Listen, there were things that I disagreed with when I was at the university. I never felt like I was being indoctrinated, and I was encouraged to speak out. And you're encouraged to challenge ideas. That sort of has gone away, and I've seen that go away. You know, we were in college. When I go back and think about my college days and some of the social justice things that were going on then, it was just people were just grandstanding and full of baloney, to be honest. They really they had no idea what they were talking about 95% of the time. And I suspect that some of these kids feel the same way, other than they've been indoctrinated. I've seen what some of the professors have had to say, even my professors at Princeton, which I disagreed with vehemently. So I think they're being indoctrinated to some degree. And I think there is a rot throughout the Ivy League.
I love the anti-Semitism is the reason it started, but the lack of broad support. 5% of the faculty at Harvard and Princeton is thought to be 5% are conservatives.
Yeah, that's wrong.
And the president of Harvard at a podcast on NPR came out and said,
"No way, on NPR."
On NPR said, there is a problem with people telling me that they're afraid to speak out. Okay, you admit it. So this is in a friendly interview. He says they're afraid to speak out. So that has changed from the administration point of view. Are they right to say keep international students at 15%? Are they right to say hit these marks, you'll lose your aid?
I think so. I think so. I mean, look, when 27% of Harvard students are foreign, I mean, that's more than a quarter of the students. That's a lot of money for the university. But, everybody from China has to report back to the Chinese government. It's a law. If you're over here studying, I mean, you know what's going on. You got people coming in here spending the money, and you're putting administrators' salaries through the roof, but you're not helping American kids. So I think 15% would be a great cap. I don't know if or no federal money. Do whatever you want to if you're a private institution. Princeton's private, but if they got federal money, you got to adhere to federal standards.
So I want you to hear the keynote speaker at the Harvard's commencement address. He's some esteemed doctor from Stanford, Dr. Abraham Verghese. Listen to what his message is, cut 20.
A cascade of draconian government measures has already led to so much uncertainty, so much pain and suffering in this country and across the globe, and more has been threatened. The outrage you must feel, the outrage so many feel, also must surely lead us to a new appreciation. Appreciation for the rule of law and due process, which till now we took for granted.
So he is for the international student, obviously, not for the scrutiny and the pressure. The president's taking $3.5 billion worth of aid away, and it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse, but I love that even his speech, even his manner of speaking sounds so professorial and learned, if you will. But he says you must feel outrage. I wouldn't have felt outrage. Why does he assume to think what I feel? As a student or as a person watching, I disagree with his characterization of it all. That's fine. But it sounds it's globalist. You know what I mean? It's a globalist view as opposed to an American view, and it's an American university. I just think that they need to be more aware of that.
I want to get your take on what this administration's doing a little bit more, and also Elon Musk has got a big meeting today in the White House. It's going to be his exit speech. He'll probably be back in some way, shape, or form at some point. But your thought about Doge, and I got to get your take on Los Angeles. Dean Cain here, his movie's coming out, Little Angels, is coming out June 6th. June 6th. It's going to be exciting. A way to scramble with the whole family to theaters. Back in a moment.
Tony Busby, the lawyer, came out. He's got 120 names. He's like, I got so many celebrities I'm going to drop. I got huge. Then he went after Jay-Z. and that did not work out well for him. Jay-Z turned around and counterpunched him right in the mouth, and he dropped it. That guy's no longer allowed. He didn't realize he wasn't allowed to practice in New York, so he's gone. All these big names we thought the only big name we've heard is Michael B. Jordan. And that's not for tending any freak-offs. That's from when Cassie Ventura, the main witness here, and Diddy's ex-girlfriend, when she was broken up with him, she took off and she got to meet Michael B. Jordan, and they started, chit-chatting a little bit. That's the only name we've heard.
So that is Billy Bush weighing in on the Hollywood situation, which is the P. Diddy trial taking place in New York, which it's going to go another week with the prosecution, then defense. And we're hearing about these freak-offs and these crazy things and the abuse of women. But is he going to be guilty? And what is he going to be guilty of? Are they overcharging? Are they organized in their prosecution? And what about this life? Tyrus joins us now, Fox Nation host, author of a book, Nuff Said, best-selling author, and host of Maintaining with Tyrus, which is on OutKick. Tyrus, great to see you.
Always a pleasure.
So do you know who I'm interviewing today?
Me.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
He's a very good answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Suge Knight from prison.
You're going to talk to Suge Knight from prison?
So I want to talk about this Diddy trial. And the fact that one thing did come out, surprised me, maybe not you, is that they were going to try to kill him. Their word was that he was in a diner. And according to one of the women who claimed to be abused and seems to be authentic, she said they found out, everything got dropped as soon as they found out that Suge Knight was eating in a diner. And they got about 8 guys and guns, and they went to a diner, and he was gone. So he also has opinions, and I guess they have this huge rivalry going on.
Well, those of us who were, I was bouncing clubs during that time and chasing football. So I had a few interactions with Suge back in the day. And he wasn't as big as he thought he was. I'll leave it at that.
Right. But he tried to get to Snoop, right?
He tried to get to Snoop.
He signed.
I'll tell you one story. All
Okay.
right. We were in New Orleans, and Snoop was out there to support concert. It was me, him, and his wife. And it was just me as the bodyguard, and then we always had a brother by the name of Al. He's about your height, and you never see him unless you made a mistake. He was a decorated detective who was retired and working. So, and everybody was there, and Snoop was making his rounds, saying hello to everybody, and lo and behold, Suge Knight showed up in the walkway of the arena.
Should we also say that Death Row Records signed Snoop and claimed to have discovered him?
Yeah, I think Snoop was coming up, and him and Warren G were young, and I think a lot of people want to take credit for discovering and stuff. Bullying him, sure. Intimidating him, 1,000%. Snoop was young, and I think between his experience, he's got a lot of wisdom now. But when you're young and trying to come up and basically starting with nothing, you probably sign a lot of contracts.
It's a rough crowd you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's a rough crowd, and Snoop was never that guy. He never was like that. He's always been very humble. Very family man oriented guy, so he didn't fit in with that lifestyle. So it would be tough for him. But Suge was attempting to bully him and shake down, because there had been many stories about him shaking down artists. Kate messing with Casey and JoJo, usually little guys.
Vanilla Ice too.
Yeah, Vanilla Ice. That story is well known. But on this day, he tried to roll up on Snoop, and my job is to not allow that to happen. So I would not hit until I was given the okay. But I was in position to just walk right up on him face to face. Well, actually, chest to face. And
you're that much bigger than him.
Yeah, he's comes up to my nose maybe.
6'4".
And I was ready to do what I needed to do. And I'm not talking. That's not my job. It's just if you make a move. And he started, assuming he came to talk to me about something with music, but all he could come up with was that he wanted to help and donate on the youth football team. And,
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
Snoop said, "No, we're good." And then he was like, "Hey, can you do something with this guy?" And he's like, he's got a mind of his own. So it was very cordial, respectful. And then him and his lackey, they went their way, and we went ours. And
do you worry about guns after that? Because that's the great equalizer, right? I can't beat this guy, but I can shoot this guy.
I was not worried about guns because I knew Al was just outside, hanging in the corner. Gotcha. And that would be the last mistake they made. You can't... when you're bodyguarding, if you're going to choose that path, if you're afraid of things like that, you really shouldn't.
Can't do it.
You can't do it, and you'll find out real quick if you have it or not. And there was some situations in bodyguarding with Snoop, like when we were in, I think it was We were on a Russia tour, Croatia area, and a guy wanted to come into VIP, and he opened his jacket, and he had a 45, and I still wouldn't let him in. And I remember some guys in the band going, "What are you doing? You could have got shot. Like, you should have just let him in. You should have just let him in." And I was like, "What do you think my job is? Like, I'm, besides me making jokes in the bus and stuff, but what do you think my job is?" Like, and they don't. Sometimes you don't understand that. Most bodyguards never have to be in situations like that, but it's always there.
So let me ask you the mindset. Like, I like to get his opinion. Evidently, he said, "I don't, even though we're rivals, I don't want to see him go to jail because of his kids." That's what he's quoted as saying on one of the other channels. But these guys seem to have a long rivalry.
Yeah, no, that there was this thing in I remember I think it was they were doing a thing with Bobby Brown was doing making a comeback, and I think he was signed with Ja Rule or something like that, and he was going to do a video on the stage. All We Need Is a Stage, I think, was a song, and they were going to do it on Capitol Records in L.A. And for a while, Suge had this thing where you had to pay a tax to shoot music videos in L.A. and stuff. And Diddy was out there. And Diddy was actually trying to get into the club, but we had a no smoking rule in the VIP, and I wouldn't let him in. And I remember his people were like this, and I remember looking at him going, "Man, I don't." And my buddy was like, "How don't you like him so much?" I said, "Because he's got baby teeth. Never trust a guy with baby teeth. He's got he's got dolphin teeth, whatever you want to call it."
Really?
And yeah, I just didn't like him.
I didn't know that was
I didn't like him, and he kept like, "You know who I am," and all that stuff. And I'm like, "I don't care." And his bodyguard wasn't big enough, so there was. I never had much use for him.
Did you know like this behavior and we're watching it. Besides the applesauce on hamburgers, did you know how abhorrent what was going on over there?
No, because you just don't. When you don't involve yourself in those situations, you never. I would never allow. Not that Snoop would ever want to be a part of anything like that, but I would never allow him to be in that situation. Any one of my clients. We've been at. I remember Paris Hilton had a party at the Playboy Mansion or the Playboy thing, and we went. I brought Snoop there. He was an invited guest, and it was Farnsworth and all these celebrities and stuff. And then around midnight, it started to get weird. A bunch of dudes dressed up like Playboy bunnies started coming out. I looked at Snoop like, "You ready?" And he laughed. He said, "Let's go." So I mean, it was always like I never allowed him to be in that situation because I think bodyguards that come forward and tell. You had an opportunity there. You're still a man. You still know what the laws are. And if your client is doing something wrong, you being just going with it is just as bad. If you see a bad act, if your client is being horrible or physically abusive to women and you just stand there because of a job, shame on you. And so you have to consider a lot of the sources that are talking the racketeering.
So should I not believe a lot? Should we all not believe a lot what we're reading?
I think you should consider the sources. I'm not, by no means am I taking up for Diddy at all. I personally despise the man. But I also think that when you have people who have shady pasts as well are all willing to come forward, but they always kind of leave out their part in it, I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. I'm a little concerned because what the public is getting caught up with is apparently he was a horrible boyfriend. Horrible. I don't know if that's against the law.
Beats people, tortures them. Extortion.
But they're trying to put a racketeering case together, and I think that's where it's getting a little. You keep hearing these horrible stories of what he's done to people, and then you have to ask the question. And again, you hate saying this because everybody should be heard. Everyone should be heard. A man, woman, whatever. If they said something has been wrong to them by somebody else, but then you have to ask the question: is why did you keep going back? Why did you? You have to ask those questions, and it's. And
they do say they have psychologists up there who say it's a cycle of abuse that you feel like on some level you deserve it, or some feel as though he's gonna find her.
Yeah, but how do you prove that in court? I guess that's the question. Is like, because they're gonna say, "Oh no, look at this text, look at this. She was a willy," and again,
and they are.
Yeah, and they are, and that's where the thing is like it becomes it's a tough call for a juror.
I have another question for you, especially reading your story, with you had really tough, challenging upbringing. And I'm looking at Suge Knight, and I'm just saying, okay, I got to find out about his backstory. This guy was a two-sport star in football and in track. So you know how much dedication, dedication to track, you can't just wing it,
No.
So you're running. And then he's playing football at UNLV, so he's got to be a top you got to be, he's around your age. Right? So he's a football player at UNLV, scholarship, And then how do you end
and
up
extremely intelligent?
It's true.
The brother is smart, borderline genius. And actually, I was originally up to play him in the NWA movie. It came down to me and the other guy, yeah. And then there was a movie that was in production called Lions and Lambs, which was basically an autobiography of Suge Knight, how he rose to power. And I was cast in that. Basically, the bottom ended up falling out, I think, when the dude got ran over by the truck or whatever. They decided to move away
Which
from
brings
it.
me to the other thing. How do you go to prison and then be out for a year or two and then run over someone with a truck?
Yeah, just
I mean,
the
how could you?
stupidity. But in doing background to learn about his character and stuff like that, and it was like he had a lot of people that supported him. He seeked out the life of crime and stuff. He didn't need it.
It's not like that he had nothing.
He didn't need it. I think, which is sad because a brother like Suge Knight, if he had put his resources in intimidating and strongholding into just being, he probably would be in some form of leadership right now in this country. He had that type of appeal, but he was a mass manipulator, and he was more concerned with controlling people and being, quote, the gangster. We used to call him a studio gangster because he usually was just being a gangster in Hollywood, which is a safe place. And the most dangerous thing about Suge was not Suge. It was the young brothers that he had filled their heads with delusions of grandeur. Those are the guys who would shoot at you. Right. Those are the guys who would attack you because they think they're earning stripes for him. So he was very good about he was very clever about always keeping his hands clean.
So Snoop bought Death Row Records, right?
Yeah.
And now Suge Knight wants to kill him again?
I mean, when you're on, he's in for life, I believe.
He's got 28 years or something. He could get paroled in another 7, I think.
Yeah, and he's not in a great health. I don't know if he has the pull. I don't know, because usually you have to have money and things like that to still do those things. So, I mean, if he's still making threats, it makes sense. But Snoop has a great security team, and I think if you are making threats from the penitentiary, that's definitely going to affect your parole.
Yeah.
So, and he can't. And Suge likes the finer things in life, so this has probably been a real hard. It's been real hard for him in there. I've heard some stories. I was supposed to meet with him to talk about the movie and stuff, and then at the last minute, when things fell through, and I decided to step back because it was getting a little choppy.
So it was interesting. We were all set to do this, right? It took like 2 months, so we were all set to do it, and all of a sudden, yesterday we get a call. He needs to get paid.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, he's going to try to shake you down.
So we said, no, we don't pay people.
No.
So he goes, I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, of course he does, because no one's listening to him.
Right. Yeah.
Because back in the day, the media would pay him $2,000 or whatever the hell for his story. Now he's like, he's always. That's how you know when someone's not rehabilitated. Is they're still doing the same things that got their ass put in there in the first place, and so he's still trying to work the angle.
Right.
But,
let's just say this: if a parole officer's listening to us right now, let's just say his people asked. Maybe he didn't know.
You know what? I don't. Here's the thing: you are the perfect guy to do this interview, because you have worked with some of the greats, and you know BS when you see it, and you're not afraid to call it out. So this is going to be and you can't talk slick to an oil can. There's nothing he can say to you that you have not seen or heard. And I'm just curious, when he's taking you down the rabbit hole, if you're going to be like, hey, tricks are for kids, man. I don't play bunny games.
Right.
Answer the question.
I'm going to use him as an expert in the Diddy trial, which has got worldwide interest. And I also want to find out the mindset of a guy that goes to prison, is out for a year, feels freedom, maybe, and next thing you know, he's taking his car and running over a rival.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you be a genius on one
understand
hand?
That him and Diddy were rivals, and you can't expect anything he says to be anything but that about Diddy.
Still.
Still. No, because there's still that war,
How did he get so much money? Diddy, he's not a good rapper, right?
Diddy had people write for him.
Yeah, okay.
Biggie Smalls is the key to everything that he has, and I believe that they kept the library, and they kept the publishing. I'm not sure of all. I don't know how much of what Chris Wallace's family got, but he built an empire off of
He was that
phenomenon that is Biggie's. But now we're hearing all kinds of stuff that apparently that the whole Biggie identity was a guy in Alabama. The Big Papa song was, so they took songs and did this or whatever. So, but as far as storytelling and performing goes, Biggie was one of the best. And then you have on the other side, the West Coast, you had the Tupac situation. So the two of them know a lot about what happened in that situation, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting to see who says what. But again, understand you have one person who's in for pretty much doing very similar things is going to give you his insight on the other guy.
Couple more minutes with Tyrus. By the way, he doesn't need notes. This is life experience for him. I have like 20 pages of notes. I said Tyrus just said hello.